Location, San Francisco. A group of people made a promise to save the world. But will they keep it? We'll find out together. And they didn't just say it, they even wrote it into their founding documents. Research, analyses, and models will be shared with the public. Among the signatories were Elon Musk and Sam Altman. In fact, the company's name itself was based on that promise, OpenAI. So, why weren't the promises they made to each other kept? Was it competition, security, or money that changed everything? And perhaps the biggest question of all, if GPT had been open source, how would the world of artificial intelligence look today? We'll be discussing all of this today. In this video, we'll explore why OpenAI hasn't lived up to its promise of transparency, the real reason behind this decision, and what would change in the world if GPT models were made publicly available, including both the winners and the losers. In 2015, OpenAI was founded as a non-profit organization. Its founding document explicitly stated, all research and models will be shared with the public. On April 27, 2016, OpenAI released a public beta version of OpenAI Gym, a reinforcement learning research platform. 2019, the weights for GPT-2 were not released. The official reason, risk of misinformation. That same year, Microsoft invested billions of dollars. The organization had now transitioned to a limited profit structure. 2022, ChatGPT was released. With over 100 million users in just 2 months, it became one of the fastest-growing platforms in history. 2025, a full-scale for-profit conversion initiative. The Attorneys General of Delaware and California objected to this move. These are not predictions, they are on record. OpenAI's official narrative has always been centered on safety. But in a 2023 interview with The Verge, chief scientist Ilya Sutskever said something different. Safety isn't yet as decisive a factor as competition. Competition. That single word undermines all the official statements. This isn't the first time this has happened. AT&T kept Bell Labs research under wraps for decades. IBM closed off its source code in the 1980s. And Google has never shared its search algorithm. The pattern is always the same, first a promise of openness, then commercial pressure, and finally a closed system. This cycle continues endlessly. Only the names and the people involved change. The official story went like this: OpenAI shut down GPT-2 because it feared the risk of misuse. But Sutskever's 2023 statement and the timing of Microsoft's 2019 investment suggest that the real reason for the decision was competition, not security. And this discrepancy turns the word open in the company's name into the most expensive irony of our time. Now, the word openness remains only in the company's name, and the decisions being made are beginning to move in the exact opposite direction of the principles on which the company was founded. There is also an ideological dimension to this story. The founders of OpenAI in 2015 viewed the concentration of artificial intelligence in the hands of a few companies as an existential threat to humanity. This wasn't just marketing rhetoric, it reflected a philosophy they genuinely believed in. For some, open-source AI meant the democratization of power. For others, it meant unleashing an uncontrolled weapon. These two belief systems have been clashing for a decade, just like the battle between good and evil. How a technology is used depends on the person using it. As an example, we can cite Albert Einstein's formula, which was a major scientific discovery for humanity, E=mc². This formula was later used in the development of the atomic bomb. Today, this clash has materialized into concrete institutions. Meta's Llama models are being released with open weights. China-based DeepSeek, meanwhile, distributed its R1 model under an MIT license and, in January 2025, sent US tech indices tumbling by more than 3% with a training budget of just $5.6 million. They have openly challenged OpenAI, and this challenge draws its strength not from the internal decisions of a closed company but from the philosophy of open source. Think about what this really means. OpenAI shut down because it saw transparency as a threat. But by shutting down, it didn't stop the competition, it just handed the lead to others. Now, among those others, are actors that OpenAI never wanted to trust. The decision to shut down didn't improve security. It just led to a loss of control and trust. To understand this, we need to go back to 2015, when OpenAI was founded. OpenAI started with zero revenue and a donation-based model. The goal was to conduct safe AI research and share the results with the public. This framework lasted 4 years. Then came GPT-2, a system capable of generating text at the speed of thought. At that point, two forces clashed internally, mission and market. And the market won. Because immediately after GPT-2 was not fully released, Microsoft's major investment arrived in 2019, worth billions of dollars. With this investment, the structure of the organization shifted toward a limited profit model. This process reached its peak with GPT-4. Architectural details were scaled back, technical reports were limited, and training data became classified. Nothing was fully open source anymore. Everything became more restricted. The basis for this is no secret, it is stated in OpenAI's 2015 charter, sharing research and models with the public. But the GPT-4 technical reporting from 2023 did not include full architectural details. Some researchers described it as, not a technical report, but a marketing document. Sutskever's competition statement from the same year rounded out the picture. When these two documents are read side by side, it becomes clear that the security narrative is being used as a shield. February 2019. OpenAI decided not to release the GPT-2 weights. That day, ideas about how to distribute AI changed completely. Because one of the world's most influential AI labs declared, open source is dangerous. And this statement became a default reference point in the years that followed. This became part of the broader justification for keeping increasingly capable models proprietary. A single idea became a framing lens for much of modern AI development: danger. But pause for a moment and ask the real question: what if GPT-2 had been released to the public in 2019, along with its training weights? And let's say the original direction was maintained. GPT-3 and GPT-4 were also released as open source. What would the world of artificial intelligence look like today? Have you ever thought about that? History books don't always ask these questions. But they have to be asked. In the first scenario, there would be a major wave of democratization. A researcher in West Africa could run fine-tuned models in their own language without worrying about cloud API costs. A small clinic could receive decision support for diagnosing rare diseases. A 20-person software team in India could access infrastructure comparable to a much larger competitor in Silicon Valley. Knowledge production and application would accelerate across regions and economic tiers. The diffusion curve of advanced capabilities would flatten dramatically, and more people, regardless of formal credentials, could acquire high-level expertise through direct interaction with models capable of tutoring, explanation, and synthesis. This is not purely theoretical. Open-weight model families such as Meta's Llama series and DeepSeek's publicly released systems under permissive licenses have already demonstrated parts of this effect at smaller scale. But every good scenario comes with a downside. In the second scenario, versions of Llama 2 with their security filters removed began circulating online just weeks after release. With a model operating at the scale of GPT-4, that same process could happen within hours. Personalized propaganda systems designed for election manipulation, easier access to information about biological threats, the creation of more dangerous weapons, cyber attacks aimed at critical infrastructure. Even the 2024 Global Risks Report from the World Economic Forum identified AI-driven disinformation as one of the most significant threats in the age of closed models. So what happens when those models become fully open? If the model weights were completely unrestricted, none of the scenarios we are discussing today would look the same. History rarely presents a better way without consequences. There is almost always a price to pay, and often, that price is a heavy one. So which path would have prevailed? Would the outcome have been positive, or would the world now be preparing for something far worse? We may never know for certain. But one thing is clear: the shutdown of GPT looked far more like a market-driven reaction than a purely security-based decision. It also revealed how dramatically a non-profit organization can change once major investments enter the picture. And the rapid rise of open-source alternatives today suggests that the decision did not eliminate competition, it only delayed it. Only time will reveal when, and how, this situation will eventually change. Let's consider this question: if GPT-4 had been publicly released in 2023, would the EU AI Act even exist in its current form today? Most likely, we would have seen far broader bans and stricter regulations. Some countries may have linked the distribution of large language models to licensing systems, turning access into a major source of revenue. Others could have placed the sharing of model weights under export control laws. The restrictions already imposed on semiconductor exports offer a small glimpse of how that future might look. We do not know the answer, but the question itself remains highly relevant. The word open in OpenAI's name has come to define what is perhaps the company most at odds with the spirit of our age. But the ideal of open source isn't entirely dead, it simply lives on in different companies. But the real question is, will they continue as part of this system, or will they stand by their promises and forge their own path? Only time will tell. And we'll all witness it together. If you enjoy videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. See you next week in a new video.